The military taught me something I never expected, and it has nothing to do with weapons or war. You think the military is all about discipline and toughness. Let me tell you the real secret I discovered. The most powerful lesson I learned in the military wasn't about fighting. It was about people. When people think about the military, they often imagine discipline, order, and physical toughness. These elements are real, and they play an important role. But the most surprising discovery inside the military is that none of these qualities matter as much as one simple thing: trust. Trust is the true foundation of strength. It is the invisible bond that holds units together, the unspoken agreement that you are not alone, and the shared belief that someone will stand for you when you cannot stand for yourself. Without trust, even the strongest army in the world cannot function. With it, even in the most desperate circumstances, people can achieve what once seemed impossible. Trust in the military is not something you are told to have, it is something you live. From the very first day of training, you are put into situations where you realize quickly that success is not possible on your own. Every march, every drill, every exercise is designed to strip away the illusion of independence. You may think you are strong enough to carry the load by yourself, but soon you learn that the weight is lighter when shared. You may think you are quick enough to finish first, but then you discover that the mission is not complete until everyone finishes. Trust is not an abstract idea. It becomes the difference between survival and collapse. The unique aspect of trust in the military is how it develops through hardship. Shared struggle builds bonds that ordinary life rarely provides. When you are cold, tired, and hungry, and the person next to you is experiencing the same thing, there is a connection that forms without words. You know they understand your pain, and you understand theirs. You know they will not leave you behind because they know you would not leave them. Trust in this environment is not given freely. It is earned through countless small acts of loyalty, sacrifice, and presence. It is the soldier who carries a little extra weight because you are injured. It is the one who shares their last bit of water when you are exhausted. It is the one who stays awake so you can rest, and the one who covers your blind spot in the middle of uncertainty. These small moments of trust, repeated over time, create a foundation stronger than steel. Another element of trust in the military is that it removes fear of isolation. Human beings fear being alone in moments of danger. We are wired to seek safety in numbers. The military amplifies this instinct by building teams that are inseparable. When you go into a difficult situation, you do not enter it as an individual. You enter as part of a group that has trained, struggled, and bonded together. You trust that the person on your left and the person on your right are just as committed as you are, and that assurance gives you courage you never thought you had. Fear does not disappear, but trust makes it manageable. You learn that you can face the unthinkable because you are not facing it alone. This lesson about trust extends far beyond the battlefield. In life, we often convince ourselves that independence is the highest form of strength. Society praises the self-made individual, the lone achiever, the person who climbs without help. But what the military shows is that real strength is never isolated. The strongest individuals are those who can rely on others and allow others to rely on them. Trust creates resilience, it creates endurance, and it creates the confidence to step into challenges that would crush someone who tries to face them alone. Trust also changes the way you view leadership. In the military, a leader who does not earn the trust of their soldiers cannot be effective. Authority alone is not enough. Orders may be followed out of obligation, but loyalty comes from trust. Soldiers follow leaders who they know will never abandon them, leaders who listen, leaders who are willing to share the burden. Trust transforms leadership from a command into a bond, from authority into respect. It teaches that true leaders do not simply give directions, they build relationships where others know their lives matter. Another surprising part of trust is how it shapes discipline. Discipline is often seen as rigid control, but in the military it becomes a form of trust. You trust that others will do their part, so you do yours without hesitation. You trust that when you make a move, your team will move with you. This synchronization creates unity. The disciplined actions of one person only make sense when they align with the actions of others. Trust ensures that discipline is not just an individual trait, but a collective rhythm that turns many people into one unstoppable force. The deeper lesson here is that trust is not only a military principle, but a life principle. Families survive difficult times when trust is present. Businesses grow when leaders and teams trust each other. Friendships endure not because they are easy, but because trust makes them resilient. Every meaningful human connection is built on trust, and without it, the relationship eventually collapses. The military does not just show this truth, it amplifies it until you cannot ignore it. To say that trust is the true foundation of strength is to admit that strength is not simply about muscles, weapons, or resources. Strength is about connection. Strength is about knowing that someone will stand with you even when the world falls apart. The most surprising thing the military teaches is that people, when bonded by trust, are capable of surviving and achieving more than they ever imagined possible. When most people picture military leadership, they imagine a figure of authority standing above others, giving commands and expecting absolute obedience. Movies and television often reinforce this image of the loud, commanding officer who is followed because of rank and fear. But the deeper truth inside the military is far different, and it is one of the most surprising lessons about leadership that anyone can learn. Leadership means serving first. It is not about being above people, it is about being among them, often putting their needs before your own. In the military, rank may grant authority, but rank alone does not create respect. A leader may be obeyed because of the position they hold, but they are only truly followed when they earn trust and loyalty. The soldiers who inspire the most dedication are not the ones who demand from others what they refuse to do themselves. They are the ones who share the load, take on the same risks, and put themselves at the back of the line when it comes to comfort. Leadership by service is not a theory in the military. It is a necessity. A leader who prioritizes themselves above their people will lose them, but a leader who sacrifices for their people will gain their unbreakable commitment. The phrase "leaders eat last" is often associated with military culture. It is a simple practice, but it carries a profound meaning. When it is time for a meal, leaders allow their soldiers to eat before they do. This is not because the food will run out or because the leader cannot take care of themselves. It is because leadership is about setting the tone and showing that the well-being of the team comes first. This small act communicates volumes. It says, "I see you, I value you, and I put your needs ahead of mine." Over time, these gestures accumulate into loyalty that no order can ever command. Serving first in leadership also means listening. Many assume leadership is about speaking loudly, giving clear instructions and ensuring people follow them. While those elements have their place, the military teaches that the best leaders are also the best listeners. They listen to their soldiers' concerns, they pay attention to small details that might affect morale, and they remain open to feedback. By listening, leaders demonstrate humility. They acknowledge that wisdom does not only flow from the top down, but also from the ground up. Soldiers who feel heard are more motivated, more engaged, and more willing to give their best because they know their voices matter. Another critical aspect of service in leadership is the willingness to share hardship. A leader in the military does not stand in comfort while their team struggles. They march the same distance, they face the same weather, and they endure the same exhaustion. This solidarity in hardship is what gives leaders credibility. Soldiers are far more willing to follow someone into danger when they know that leader is willing to walk through the same fire. Service in this context is not symbolic, it is practical. It shows that the leader is not above the experience but part of it. The concept of serving first also changes the way decisions are made. Leaders in the military are trained to think not only about the mission, but also about the lives entrusted to them. Every choice carries consequences, and those consequences are most heavily felt by the people they lead. A leader who serves first will make decisions with the well-being of their soldiers in mind, balancing the mission's demands with the human reality of those carrying it out. This mindset prevents recklessness and builds trust. Soldiers may not always agree with every decision, but they will respect it if they believe their leader considered their safety and dignity before acting. The humility that comes with service is another surprising dimension of military leadership. Leaders are not perfect, and in the military, mistakes can cost dearly. A leader who pretends to be flawless will lose credibility quickly, but a leader who admits mistakes, who takes responsibility, and who works to correct them earns respect. Service in leadership means accepting that your role is not to project invincibility, but to be accountable. Accountability demonstrates that the leader is willing to carry the weight of responsibility for the group, and that willingness deepens the bond between leader and team. This philosophy of leadership extends beyond the battlefield and into everyday life. In business, families, communities, and organizations, the same principle applies. People respond not to authority alone, but to leaders who put the needs of others above their own. A boss who demands long hours while enjoying every luxury will lose the respect of their team, but a leader who shares the burden and sacrifices with them will inspire loyalty. A parent who demands obedience without listening will create resistance, but one who serves their children by guiding, supporting, and sacrificing will create trust. A community leader who speaks without serving will lose relevance, but one who rolls up their sleeves and works alongside others will gain followers. Leadership means serving first because leadership is not about power, it is about responsibility. The military ingrains this lesson by placing leaders in positions where the lives of others depend on their choices. That responsibility demands humility, empathy, and sacrifice. It demands a mindset where leaders view themselves not as the most important, but as the most accountable. Serving first is not weakness, it is strength expressed in its highest form. True authority comes not from the position you hold, but from the service you give to those who follow you. One of the greatest revelations that comes from military life is the discovery of resilience, and not the kind of resilience people often imagine. Most think resilience is simply about being tough, about standing strong no matter what happens. But the military reveals something deeper and more surprising. Resilience is not something you already have. It is something that is born only when you are pushed far past the limits you once believed were unbreakable. Resilience is not discovered in comfort or convenience. It is born in moments where everything in you screams to quit, and yet you keep moving forward. The military creates conditions where limits are constantly tested. From long marches carrying heavy packs, to sleepless nights followed by endless drills, to the mental stress of uncertainty and danger, you are put into situations where your body and mind insist that you have reached the end. The first time this happens, you believe it. You feel like you cannot take another step, cannot endure another moment, cannot bear the weight of what is being asked of you, but then, somehow, you do. You take one more step, and then another, and before long you realize that the line you thought was the end was only the beginning of a deeper capacity you never knew you had. This is where resilience is born, beyond the limits of what you thought possible. The surprising part of this process is how it transforms your identity. Before the military, many people define themselves by what they believe they can and cannot do. I'm not strong enough, I'm not disciplined enough, I can't go without sleep, or I can't handle stress. But once you are pushed into situations that challenge these beliefs, those old definitions start to dissolve. You begin to realize that you are capable of far more than you imagined. You see yourself in a new light, not as fragile, but as someone who can endure, someone who can adapt, someone who refuses to be broken even when circumstances try to break you. This shift in identity is permanent because once you have experienced yourself going beyond your limits, you can never go back to believing you are powerless. Resilience in the military is not only physical, it is profoundly mental. The body can be trained to endure discomfort, but the mind is where resilience truly takes root. The military teaches that pain and hardship are temporary, but quitting lasts forever. When you are exhausted and ready to give up, the voice in your head that tells you to stop is often louder than the physical discomfort itself. Learning to silence that voice, to push past it, and to keep going despite its volume is one of the most powerful skills resilience can give you. This mental strength does not just help in combat or training, it carries into every area of life. When challenges appear in careers, relationships, or personal struggles, the same inner strength that was born in the military becomes a source of confidence and endurance. Another surprising aspect of resilience is how much it relies on others. It is easy to imagine resilience as an individual quality, a personal toughness that one person develops on their own. But in the military, resilience is often sustained by the people around you. When you feel like you cannot go on, you look at the person beside you who is carrying the same load and refusing to quit. Their presence gives you strength. You realize you are not the only one suffering, and you do not want to let them down by stopping. Resilience, then, becomes both personal and collective. You dig deep for yourself, but you also dig deep for your team. That combination makes resilience even stronger because it is anchored not just in personal willpower, but in the shared determination of a group moving together. The experience of finding resilience beyond your limb, it also reshapes how you see obstacles. Before the military, many challenges in life can feel overwhelming, like walls too high to climb. But once you have endured moments where quitting seemed inevitable, yet you continued anyway, those walls appear smaller. You develop a perspective that nothing is as impossible as it first appears. This does not mean challenges become easy, but they no longer carry the same power to intimidate you. You have proof from your own lived experience that you can handle more than you thought, and that proof becomes an anchor every time you face something difficult in the future. Resilience is also born in failure. In the military, you do not succeed at everything the first time. You fall behind, you make mistakes, you face setbacks. At first, these moments feel crushing. But over time, you realize that resilience is not about never falling. It is about always getting back up. Every failure becomes another opportunity to push further than you did before, to recover more quickly, and to strengthen the belief that nothing will keep you down for long. This cycle of falling, rising, and continuing forward deepens resilience in a way that success alone never could. Perhaps the most profound part of discovering resilience beyond your limits is the way it transforms fear. Fear is one of the most powerful forces in human life, and in the military, fear is a constant companion. Fear of pain, fear of failure, fear of the unknown, fear of loss. But when you find resilience, fear no longer has the same hold on you. You understand that fear will appear, but you also understand that you can act in spite of it. Fear becomes less of a barrier and more of a signal that you are entering a place where growth will happen. Every time you face fear and endure anyway, your resilience deepens and your courage expands. Resilience is born beyond your limits because it cannot be taught in theory, it must be lived. It comes from stepping into situations where you feel certain you cannot continue, and then discovering that you can. It comes from realizing that the line between what you think you can do and what you are truly capable of is much farther apart than you believe. The military reveals this truth again and again until it becomes a part of you. Once you have experienced it, you carry it with you forever, ready to be called upon whenever life demands more of you than you think you have to give. When people hear the word discipline in the context of the military, their first thought is usually obedience. They imagine soldiers following orders without question, marching in perfect synchronization, and living in rigid structure where every detail is controlled. While obedience is certainly part of military life, the deeper lesson that often goes unnoticed is that discipline is not about blind compliance. Discipline builds unity, not just obedience. It is the glue that holds diverse individuals together, turning them from strangers into a cohesive team capable of achieving what no single person could accomplish alone. From the very first day of military training, discipline is drilled into every routine. Waking up at the same time each morning, making your bed with precise corners, maintaining a polished uniform, and following a strict schedule may seem unnecessary to an outsider. But these daily practices are not just about appearances or control. They serve a larger purpose, teaching individuals to align their actions with a group, to understand that every small detail matters, and to recognize that personal habits contribute directly to the strength of the whole. A bed neatly made is not just about cleanliness. It is about consistency, reliability, and the mindset that if you can master the small things, you will be ready for the big things. Discipline also creates predictability in an unpredictable environment. Military operations often take place in chaotic conditions where uncertainty and danger are constant. In such circumstances, discipline provides structure and clarity. Every soldier knows what to do, when to do it, and how to do it, even when stress and fear are overwhelming. This predictability allows individuals to move as one, reducing hesitation and confusion. When a unit acts with discipline, it does not fall apart under pressure. It becomes sharper, more efficient, and more capable of responding to whatever challenge arises. What makes discipline so powerful in the military is that it transforms from external enforcement into internal commitment. At the start, recruits may follow orders because they are afraid of punishment or eager to meet expectations. Over time, however, the repetition and structure of discipline shape their mindset. It becomes less about what they are told to do and more about what they choose to do because they understand its purpose. This internalized discipline builds unity because everyone is guided by the same principles, even when no one is watching. The group no longer needs constant supervision because its members have embraced discipline as part of who they are. Another surprising aspect of discipline is how it fosters mutual trust. In a military unit, each person's actions affect the safety and success of everyone else. If one person is careless, late, or unprepared, the entire group can suffer the consequences. Discipline ensures that each soldier can trust the others to do their part. When you know that the person beside you is as committed as you are, you gain confidence not only in them but in yourself. This trust strengthens unity, creating bonds that go beyond simple cooperation. You are no longer individuals acting side by side. You are a unified team acting with one heartbeat. Discipline also teaches selflessness. In many parts of civilian life, discipline is pursued for personal gain, staying fit, excelling in a career, or reaching individual goals. In the military, however, discipline is primarily about serving the team. Every action, from maintaining equipment to keeping formation, is done not only for personal success, but for the success of the group. This shift in focus from self to collective is what makes military discipline so unique. It erases the me first mentality and replaces it with a mindset that values the group above the individual. This selflessness builds unity because it ensures that every person is working toward a shared purpose. It is important to understand that discipline in the military is not meant to suppress individuality, but to channel it. Soldiers come from different backgrounds with different strengths, personalities, and ways of thinking. Discipline provides the framework that allows these differences to blend into a single force without erasing personal identity. In fact, the strength of a disciplined unit often comes from the diversity of its members, unified by a shared structure. Everyone's unique skills and perspectives are harnessed within the boundaries of discipline, creating a balance between individuality and unity that is powerful and effective. Beyond the battlefield, this lesson about discipline carries into every aspect of life. Families, organizations, and communities thrive when discipline builds unity. In a family, discipline is not about strict rules for the sake of control, but about creating routines, values, and habits that bring stability and harmony. In a workplace, discipline ensures that deadlines are met, responsibilities are shared, and the team functions as a whole rather than a collection of individuals competing against one another. In communities, discipline fosters respect, accountability, and the willingness to place collective well-being above selfish desires. Discipline also teaches that unity is not the absence of conflict, but the ability to work through conflict without falling apart. In the military, disagreements and frustrations inevitably arise, but discipline provides the framework to keep the mission moving forward. Personal feelings take a backseat to the collective responsibility, and that mindset ensures that unity is not easily broken. This lesson is crucial in life outside the military as well. Discipline teaches that unity is not fragile. It is strong because it is built on shared commitments rather than fleeting emotions. Ultimately, the military reveals that discipline is far more than a set of rules or restrictions. It is a system that molds individuals into a unified body, teaching them to trust, to sacrifice, and to align their actions with a greater purpose. Obedience alone may create short-term order, but discipline creates long-term unity. It binds people together through shared habits, shared sacrifices, and shared responsibility. It turns a collection of individuals into a single unit capable of moving with precision, strength, and purpose. When people think about the military, they often think first of war. They imagine battles, weapons, and conflict, and they assume that the purpose of the military is to fight. But one of the most surprising and profound lessons that emerges from military life is the realization that the ultimate goal is peace, not war. Everything about training, discipline, and preparation exists not to create destruction, but to preserve life, to prevent chaos, and to protect the possibility of peace. The military spends enormous time training, drilling, and preparing for combat. Yet those who serve understand better than anyone the true cost of war. They see the sacrifices, the risks, and the irreversible consequences of conflict. This awareness shapes a deep respect for peace. The military's readiness for war is not a celebration of violence but a safeguard against it. Strength in this context is not meant to be unleashed recklessly but held responsibly, used only when absolutely necessary. The paradox is clear. The people who are most prepared to fight are often the ones who value peace the most. This truth reveals itself in the way military training emphasizes restraint as much as action. Soldiers are taught not only how to use their strength, but when not to use it. They are trained to assess situations carefully, to consider consequences, and to act with discipline rather than impulse. This restraint comes from understanding that the use of force is never casual. Every action carries weight, and the responsibility of holding that power is immense. Behind the image of toughness lies a deep sense of responsibility, because the goal is never violence for its own sake. It is the protection of something larger. Peace in the military context does not mean the absence of struggle, but the presence of order and stability. When soldiers deploy, their mission often involves preventing conflict, providing humanitarian aid, or helping to rebuild communities torn apart by crisis. These tasks do not make headlines the way battles do, but they represent the true heart of the mission, creating conditions where peace can take root. Soldiers who serve in these roles see firsthand that the most meaningful victories are not measured in enemy losses, but in lives protected, families reunited, and communities stabilized. Another dimension of this lesson is how it changes the way you think about strength. Outside the military, strength is often associated with dominance, with overpowering others to prove superiority. But inside the military, strength is redefined as the ability to use power responsibly. Real strength is not about seeking fights. It is about avoiding unnecessary ones. It is about holding enough discipline, patience, and wisdom to recognize that the highest achievement of strength is preventing conflict, not fueling it. This understanding of peace also has a personal dimension. Military life is filled with challenges that test patience, resilience, and relationships. In such an environment, peace is not only a global or national goal. It is also something to cultivate within oneself and within the group. Soldiers learn to manage their emotions, to remain calm under pressure, and to create unity even in moments of stress. Peace becomes both an external mission and an internal practice. It is the calm that allows decisions to be made with clarity, the unity that keeps teams together, and the grounding that prevents chaos from overtaking the mind. The lesson that the ultimate goal is peace also reshapes how soldiers view conflict in everyday life. Having faced situations where conflict is unavoidable, they return with a deeper appreciation for dialogue, understanding, and compromise. Arguments or disagreements that once seemed significant are now seen through the lens of perspective. If war represents the collapse of communication, then peace represents its highest form. Soldiers often become advocates for empathy and cooperation because they understand more than most the cost of losing them. One of the most powerful aspects of this lesson is the respect it creates for human life. In the military, every life matters. The life of the soldier next to you, the lives of civilians in a conflict zone, even the lives of those considered the enemy. The awareness that every decision can affect life or death brings a profound sense of value to human existence. This respect shapes the way soldiers act, reminding them constantly that their mission is not destruction but protection, not conquest but preservation. Beyond the battlefield, this lesson applies to communities, workplaces, and families. In daily life, it is easy to fall into patterns of competition, conflict, and division. But the military perspective shows that the ultimate strength lies in creating peace. Families thrive when peace exists in the home. Teams succeed when peace defines their cooperation. Communities grow when peace becomes the foundation for progress. Just as in the military, the preparation for difficulty in everyday life is not so that we can fight with each other, but so that we can live in stability, safety, and connection. The realization that the ultimate goal is peace, not war, also changes the way you think about legacy. What matters most is not the battles fought, but the peace preserved. The sacrifices of those who serve are meaningful not because of the conflicts they engaged in, but because of the lives they helped protect and the futures they helped secure. This understanding gives deeper meaning to service, showing that behind every act of discipline and readiness lies a vision of a world where peace can flourish. The military, more than anything else, demonstrates that preparation for war is ultimately a commitment to peace. The weapons, the training, the discipline, all of it is not to glorify conflict, but to prevent it. Those who wear the uniform understand that the greatest honor is not in fighting, but in creating conditions where fighting is no longer necessary. The surprising truth is that the military, which seems to embody war, is in fact one of the strongest advocates for peace, holding the responsibility of strength not as a tool for destruction, but as a shield for humanity. The most surprising thing I learned from the military is that behind the toughness, discipline, and sacrifice that most people associate with service lies a set of life lessons that go far beyond the battlefield. Trust is the true foundation of strength, teaching us that no one succeeds alone and that shared struggle builds unshakable bonds. Leadership means serving first, showing that humility and sacrifice inspire loyalty more than authority ever can. Resilience is born beyond your limits, revealing that our greatest strength is discovered only when we push past the point we thought was impossible. Discipline builds unity, not just obedience, turning individuals into a collective force that moves as one with purpose and precision. And above all, the ultimate goal is peace, not war, reminding us that real strength exists not to destroy but to protect, to preserve, and to create stability. Taken together, these lessons form a picture of the military that many never see. A picture that reveals how the qualities forged in service are not only about survival in conflict, but about building lives, communities, and futures grounded in trust, resilience, humility, unity, and peace.